All right, guys, in this video, we're gonna be talking about the day the engine quit. My 503 on this particular day said, I don't wanna do this, I wanna stop running. And basically like that scene in Forrest Gump where he just stops running and goes, I think I wanna go home now. Well, that's what it did. And this video is gonna be talking about that. I realized that I only had maybe 500 or 600 subscribers when that happened. And I've had a few people ask me about it. They said, hey, I didn't know that happened to you, some newer subscribers. So I figured I'd go through it. I'm gonna show you guys the video, and not the whole video, but just the part where that happened. And I'm gonna kind of tell you my thoughts about it. And now that I know more, and guess what? It was user error, of course. It wasn't the engine's problem. 503s and all two-strokes get a bad rap, but guys, if you are taking care of it, so you greatly reduce, it doesn't mean it's not gonna happen, but you greatly reduce the chances of something happening or the engine shutting off on you. So it's on us as owners of two-strokes to make sure we're treating them correctly. I had grown up around them, but I was a lot younger. So as an adult, I had never really messed with two-strokes. So, but now that I've had it a couple years and I had talked to my dad a lot about them kind of here and there before he passed away in the last couple years. And so kind of reminded me of some stuff that I remember him telling people about when he was training people, and actually a scenario with me in the plane. So we're gonna talk about that here in a minute. Before we get started, I always say this in my videos now, but I love the fact that I've been sending these stickers out. This one's a little bigger, but I have them half the size of this. Email aviationadventureboys@gmail.com down here at the bottom, and I will send you one of those for free. Also, I have some international stamps, and which means I was able to send some to my Canadian friends. So I believe, I know Al got his. So if you want them and you're international, I would love to use these stamps and send them to you for free. So just hit me up at the website, or the email, and I'll get them sent out to you. And yeah, I'm gonna put you guys on the tripod. I was gonna go flying today. It's very gusty. We have storms surrounding us, storm cells surrounding us. And the wind was reported at 110 at 8, which, to give you an idea, so that's 360, 090, 180, 270. So if that's 090, then the wind should be coming from over there at 8. Instead, it's literally coming down the pipe at 3.6, probably at 12, gusting much higher. When I went to go open the doors, my hangar is north facing, and it was pushing the doors in. So I had to fight to get that door open. This one was a little easier, but all right, let me get you on the tripod and let's talk about the time the engine died. It's like that song, the My Miss American Pie. My engine died, I don't know. It's the day the music died, right? I don't know, here we go. All right, guys, I like making the videos on the tripod in front of the plane. That way, people can see what I'm talking about, and it's just kind of a nice background. Unfortunately, the lighting's not great, but that's okay. We work with what we got. So 2 years ago and 2 months, 2 years, 2 months, or 3 months, I was probably in my 10th or 15th hour of flying the Challenger, and the engine died on me. So to give you guys a full scenario, what happened, Ray and I had messed with the carburetors, both of them, and it was running really good on the ground. And I was doing this because it came from a different altitude. So you guys know the whole story. You gotta make sure that you're dialed in for where you're flying. So before I left on the flight, the test flight after messing with the carburetors, I had noticed that there was a Cessna 150 in the pattern because there's a little flight school there. And I don't know if they were doing instruments approach or if he had a student or whatever was going on, but they were kind of really making I call them airliner approaches, but going really far, a couple miles away from the airport and kind of making a straight in. So I'm not sure what they're doing, but for the record, I've heard the great flight school and stuff. This has nothing to do with them. But because that was happening when I was in the pattern and I had to extend my downwind pretty far, I went ahead and decided that altitude was going to be my friend. Hold on, the wind blew the door open. Oh my gosh, the plane wants to go flying on its own, guys. Yeah, definitely not a day for flying. But you guys, it shouldn't bother you too much in the microphone because I believe it's green. Yeah, when it's green, that means it's noise canceling, so it shouldn't hear anything around it. But so I knew that I was going to have to fly at a much higher altitude, and because of that, I went ahead and I kept climbing. So I actually climbed outside of the pattern. Obviously, on a normal situation, I wouldn't do this. Also, if I was like the pilot with the Challenger that I am now, I wouldn't have waited for them. I probably would have just called a short approach and just got in and got off the runway and back taxied or done a touch and go and been long gone out of their way. But since I was trying to put some time on it and see what was going on with the plane, I decided just to fly high and wait for them. And when the video starts, I think you can kind of see the 150 kind of go under me and to the airport. So at this point in time, I'm probably 1,100 feet above the ground, and I'm just over a mile away from the airport, roughly. And I go ahead and enter my base leg, and right when I'm turning base to final, for some reason I pulled the throttle back just to idle because I was high. And you know, I was just high in general, but obviously basing how far away you are and the fact that there was like a 6-knot headwind, I didn't know how far away I was. But when I pulled that thing back to idle, it just died. And my first reaction was obviously well, the airplane wants to climb as soon as the engine dies because the engine's pushing the nose forward. So my first reaction was to pull down or push down on the stick and then get to my 55 or 50, whatever felt best, and then try restarts and such. And I did that, and it didn't work. The restarts didn't work in a nutshell because I probably had flooded it, and I was like trying to pump the primer and everything, just kind of in not panic mode, but in like, let's get this thing started. So, you know, and I'll show you guys a video here in a second, but this was all user error, guys. And let's just get into the video. How about that? Let's do this. I'm gonna pull my phone out and I'm gonna watch the video. Where's my phone? Okay, I'm gonna watch the video. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm on my base leg and I'm just about to turn final. The 150's doing a full stop. They have like, they're gonna do like the option. They're gonna do a full stop and then take off again. I'm pretty sure you can see him go under me at some point in time here. But as you can see, I have a lot of altitude, but not a lot of options. Way over to the right, I have a field. Way up in front of me, I have a field. I kind of skipped forward here a little bit, but now I'm on final. I measured this thing under me there as a mile, and boom, you can see the engine dies, and I go to restarting. And at this point in time, GoPros,
and Cherokee County, experimental 85 Bravo, I lost my engine. I'll be making emergency landing, runway 14.
So as you can see, I make my calls, and I'm trying to keep the nose down because the airplane really wants to come up, and I'm trying to keep my speeds, and I'm trying to start at the same time. Now I know what you're saying.
County traffic, 542 Quebec, on the takeoff roll, Cherokee County.
Now some people had judged them before, and they were already landing and taking off. That wasn't on them, so they did a great job. Thank you very much, guys. So I know what you're saying. You're like, gosh, John, you're so high. Of course you were going to make it. And yes, I agree with you. But when you don't know, when you haven't had this happen to you before, it can be pretty scary. And not knowing if you're going to make it or not definitely changes how you feel about that whole situation. But as I got closer, I realized I was just going to burn up my starter, and I might as well just do this landing. So right here, I go ahead and put the nose down, pick up some airspeed, and I do what has been referenced as the grocery store cart landing, because people say it sounds like a grocery store cart, and you can see it was kind of a non-event. I'm sorry, I talked through the whole thing, but then I continued to start the aircraft up after a minute or two of fiddling with it. I didn't prime it anymore, and then it started. I taxied back, and of course I was like, that's when it hit me, guys. It actually didn't hit me. Nothing happened. My heart rate, nothing happened. No heart rate change, no nothing, because my brain was just in keep your airspeed so you don't stall. Can I make it there? Yes, I think I can make it there. Of course, my brain was like, if I need to go there, I can right now. But I also knew that if I didn't choose option B right away, that option B was no longer going to be an option if I stuck with A. So, yeah, so I stuck with A, and obviously I had more than enough room to make it. And when the engine shuts off in a Challenger, I don't know, I'm assuming it's kind of a pusher characteristic and probably a regular airplane characteristic. It's the only airplane I've been in with the engine off. It actually kind of pushed forward. The prop wasn't producing any drag, so it was almost like I was in a glider. You know, I have had the opportunity to fly twice in a glider down in Arizona. And it did give me that feeling like I was in a glider. And I had heard people say a Challenger is like kind of like a glider with wings, but obviously they're not super heavy. So, you know, if I was a lighter pilot, maybe that wouldn't have been the scenario, because maybe I wouldn't have been able to have enough momentum to get that. I don't really know. But the main reason I'm making this video is to kind of show you guys that it's a non-event. Somebody messaged me and said, why did you say an engine out's a non-event? And obviously it's an event. It's something that's happening to you, but it doesn't always have to be that scenario. If I wasn't landing on that runway, I would have gladly gone. Option B was closer. I would have been right there in the field. I would have had a little left to right crosswind, but I would have no problem. I think the biggest problem I would have had was I've heard cows like yellow and red airplanes. So at that point in time, there's somebody doing aerobatics up there. So you're more of a man than I am. But he's not from this airport. I don't know where he's from, but I would have made it somewhere regardless. And the term non-event means it's not the end of the world. There's nothing wrong with having to take the wings off your plane or fix it and get permission to take off or whatever. You can land these things anywhere. If this is, yeah, so when I use the term a non-event, that just means that like you're gonna be fine. Realistically, guys, even if you have to go into trees, it's not the end of the world. My dad used to tell people pick 2 large ones and just go in between them. Get the fuselage in there, go ahead and shear the wings off. The plane, who cares? Get another one. You're alive. You walk away from it, hopefully. So yeah, it's a non-event. And if you're Nate's wife, it's a non-event, okay? Let the guy experiment with the experimentals, okay? But yeah, so anyways, the other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to the engine out is something my dad used to say to people, and actually it happened to us. We were flying in the Quicksilver that had a 503 on it, and we were flying from a place called Riley's Field, which is just outside of Goose Creek, North Carolina, down to a place called Page, South Carolina. And the engine started to, he let me fly, and I was flying. And the engine started to have kind of like a weird noise to it. And my reaction, I was in the left seat, my dad was in the right seat, because he liked to fly from the right seat. My reaction was to grab the throttle and pull it back. As quickly as I put my hand on the throttle, my dad grabbed it from me and advanced it. And told me his controls, he took controls, and we got there, we landed. It was not a very big deal. But the moral of the story is when we landed, my dad said to me, and I know you guys are like, oh, you talk about your dad a lot. Well, this is where I got this passion from, guys, so I apologize. But my dad owned a landscaping company in Florida when we lived in Florida. And so I would run the weed eater every once in a while. And when we landed, my dad said something I'll never forget. He said, this is a 2-stroke engine. He said, you know, our weed eaters are 2-stroke engines. If you're trying to get the job done with a weed eater, okay, and it starts to bog down on you, what do you do to keep the weed eater going? You stay full power, it'll go, it'll fight through. It might not be the healthiest thing for the engine, but it's not gonna shut off. It's the same with these. My dad has been a big advocate of if something goes awry, the last thing you wanna do is pull this engine back to idle, because if you pull it back to idle, it'll shut off, 90% chance it's gonna shut off. So if it's having an issue, you don't give it that fuel, it's gonna shut off. So that was his analogy was, hey, you know, if you got a weed eater that last, my dad had the, you know, Perkins is a restaurant, Perkins. And so, you know, you got a weed eater that's kind of messed up. You only have one at that job, and you have to do like the entrance there. Well, you're going to run it just full out just to get it to finish the job. And that was my dad's thing. Like, hey, just run the engine full out. Who cares if you break it or have to replace it? If it gets you to where you're going and it's on, it's not a problem. So food for thought. I'm not a mechanic. I've never claimed to be a mechanic, and I am mechanical. I'm a YouTube certified parts changer. So I change parts, and I understand things like that, but I am not a mechanic. So that's just some food for thought from someone like my dad, who had many of hours in Rotax and really understood them. So now you're probably asking yourself, well, John, why did your engine die? And you know, the reality is I don't 100% know, but I will say that the idle, there's 2 major factors I think here. The idle was very low. So when I would pull my throttle back, my engine was like idling at like, I want to say 14 or 1500 RPM. And now Once after that flight, we upped it to 2,000. So now that was also a number my dad agreed with, 2,000. And so it idles at 2,000. So that was one problem. So when you pull it way back, it's really low. It kind of just wants to die. Problem number two, and this is in no way, shape, or form a reflection of the person I bought the plane from, because this could have happened to anybody. But it had a 15 PSI fuel pump in it. So I've done some research and I've talked to a few people, and this might or might not. I'm sure the experts will leave comments down in the comments, but I had the fuel pump on. And so my thought process is, when I pulled back and it kind of started to flood itself, I believe Rotax, I was told 5 PSI is like where you want it. I have a 4 to 7 in there right now. But I don't run it all the time like I was back then, because obviously I didn't know as much about the airplane and the functions at the time. So I personally believe that the 15 PSI fuel pump, the low RPMs, and the fact that we had just messed with the carburetor all played the Swiss cheese effect, right? We just got through the holes, and that's why the engine shut down. So obviously I've put many of hours on the plane since then, and I haven't had a problem. If it's not broke, don't fix it. However, every year you definitely should do things like fuel lines and whatever. Maybe not the fuel pump. I used to run cheap fuel pumps, but now I don't. Now I have the good fuel pumps. But yeah, so always do maintenance on the engine. It'll probably always treat you right. If something does happen, it is a non-event. Don't lose sleep over it. Don't let that prevent you from getting an aircraft like the Challenger or Quicksilver or anything that's got a Rotax on it, because you just learn how to fly it, And the best part is when you're practicing at your home field, you pull the power back and you go and you're landing, you actually have less momentum when you're practicing it. So if you're making it in practice, you're definitely going to make it when you have the engine off, because it depending on the winds, obviously, it's going to want to glide further. So the other thing too, again, not a CFI, but when I'm flying, I always know which direction the wind's coming from. So when I'm toting along and I see a field and I'm like, oh, hey, for the next 5 minutes, that's an acceptable field if we need it. I also say to myself, okay, well, the winds are out of 090 and I'm on a 360 heading. So somehow or another, I'm going to work my way into the headwind. And if it's too far, if it's further away, then obviously I'll just take a tailwind, whatever I got to do. But so, because if you have a big enough tailwind, that might become an issue when you're landing it. You're going to obviously overfly where you're trying to land, and you might have a hard time getting it to settle, because obviously once you get close to the ground. But the best thing to do would just be plop it down, and don't worry about it. Anything's fixable, and if not, just get a new plane. You're living to see another day. So I appreciate you guys. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, like, comments. I just go ahead and give me the comments. I'll take them at this point. It helps also if you watch, I know I'm saying it towards the end of the video, but it really helps when you watch the whole video. That helps YouTube say, hey, John's videos are worth a darn. And I'm really trying. I had a few people who reached out and wanted to do kind of like sponsorships, and one of them actually did end up doing it. So I really appreciate that. He didn't say he wanted his name to be said or anything like that, so I'll keep that secret. If he wants it to know, I'll plaster it up here. That's great. Anybody who wants to contribute to the channel, just order the stickers for free or whatever, just email me at aviationadventureboys@gmail.com, and I'm going to keep producing. Unfortunately, just that Texas has been nothing but storms and wind for the last month, and before that, it was just way too cold. So as you can see, no doors, and I'm not putting doors on it, dang it, okay? I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. The next one will probably be flying. Fingers crossed.